We go. In studio with us this morning, and oh so handsome and debonair, is the wonderful Mr. Brent Giddings of B Giddings Services. So good morning, Brent.
Good morning, Erik.
Is that an awkward introduction for you?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, yeah, it is.
Well, fair enough. Brent, you and I have had the wonderful joy. We grew up together. We were were you in church choir? I forget.
When I was very little, but we were high school sweethearts.
Yeah, well, high school. It was romantic to say the least. No, Brent, we've known each other for a long time. Started at church, and then we went to middle school and high school together.
Yeah.
And since then, we've gone in different directions. I sell real estate, and you do everything to support real estate. Is that right?
Yeah, you could say that as far as fix up and maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. So, what is it exactly that you do with B Giddings Services?
I do a lot of interior painting and bathtub resurfacing.
An odd combination. How does one get into bathroom resurfacing of not toilets necessarily, but of course bathtubs and maybe sinks if need be?
Yeah, well, I flipped houses for 8 years, and I always hired it out. And one day the light bulb went off in my head, and I said, well, I can do this. And I learned how to do it. I got training on how to do it. And I've been plugging away at it for 4 years now. And
there's not many people in the area who do bathtub resurfacing, correct?
No, there isn't.
So who would be your ideal client? Who's going to be the person that will call you up and say, Brent, I want you to resurface my bathtub? Because it's usually a forgotten about thing.
Who's my ideal candidate?
Yeah.
Anybody who has that tub that maybe is an ugly color, or just maybe it is white but you just can't keep it clean because it's been cleaned too hard for too long.
That's not the case with things in my house, Brent. It's not that I've scrubbed and dubbed and made sure that everything is super clean. But we're talking about people who maybe want to do a bathroom remodel, and they've been that's the eyesore in the bathroom,
yep.
Right? And so you can go in and you resurface the bathtub. What's the process with that?
Well, depending on what surface we're working on, whether it's fiberglass or pressed steel or whatever, they're all a little bit different. But the general idea is to get it cleaned, and then you have to prep the surface. And prepping the surface is different depending on what surface we're working on. But then we prime it and then we paint it. So
can I do this myself? Can I go to Home Depot or Menards, buy a kit, and do this myself?
You could. You're probably going to call me in about a month and tell me that it's all peeling off.
Yeah, and I'd actually use that as a transition because number one is it's not expensive to have your bathtub resurfaced, but to actually tear out a bathtub, put in a new bathtub, could cost you thousands, and you're a few $100, right?
To do just your basic bathtub is $350.
That's a bargain price, Brent. Again, in studio with us, Brent Giddings of B Giddings Services, and the topic is, who do you call after you do it wrong yourself? And maybe that's you, because if somebody does a bathtub resurface themselves, they're going to get themselves in some trouble. Fair to say?
Absolutely. Surface preparation is everything when it comes to it. And usually that's where people will skimp on, to save the time. I'll wash the tub and then dry it and then quick throw something on it. But you kind of have to break down that surface more than just that in order for it to stick.
And if it's a do-it-yourself project gone wrong, I'd imagine that actually ends up being a bit of your clientele. Not only a bathtub resurfacing, but you also said you do a large amount of interior painting. I'm the type of person that always likes to save a buck. And I'd imagine there's a lot of people out there that like to save a buck. And so you consider doing a project on your own, especially painting. Paint is somewhat inexpensive, and it's just labor intensive, right?
Yeah.
And so you see people probably all the time, Brent, who paint their house, their interior walls, and then what?
Half the time the ceiling's painted partially, and there's paint all over the trim. There is value in hiring a professional to do your painting.
In fact, you said that you have a history in flipping houses. Just a couple of days ago, I closed on my first flip house, and in fact, even before you came into the studio this morning, you were at the flip house doing some work. Why in the world would I put my trust into you, Brent, to say I need you to paint this house? Why would I not do it myself?
Well, for an easy one is if you're going to be selling that house, you're going to want it to look like a professional painted it. And a lot of times I'm not saying that you couldn't paint a nice straight line, but a lot of times people see that when they're walking in. As a painter, my eyes always drift to the ceiling, and I usually can tell if it was a homeowner job or a professional.
Yeah. Brent, it seems as though interior paint is one of those things that can change the feel of a room and change the feel of a house instantly. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you and they want to have their interior painted, even if they want to see what it's going to cost, because I think we can't even give a bid over the air, because if so, each room is different,
Exactly.
and so it's difficult to do. Free estimates, right?
Absolutely.
So how can somebody talk to you about either getting their bathtub resurfaced or getting their interior or even exterior painted?
I would say give me a call on my cell phone, which is 701-306-5383.
Now, Brent, I've had you on air a number of times, and no joke, about every couple of weeks I get a call from somebody saying, who was that guy? The guy who does the bathtubs or the guy who does the painting. Because you should be the #1 person in demand in Fargo for your skills, because not only are you reasonably priced and absolutely trustworthy, but your work is second to none. So thank you for taking great care of our listeners.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Now stick around, everybody. We're going to have a lot more coming up here after the break. But in the meantime, head to livefargomoorhead.com and find out what your home is worth. This is Real Estate Radio with Erik Hatch.